It says we're live.
Okay, do you want me to introduce myself?
Yep.
Okay, hi, I'm Denise Wright. I'm NSI's Global Educator. I've been a champion winner for many years and competition director. I was unbeaten in the UK for 10 years consecutively, and from that got into competitions, international judging and education. I also work in the R&D over in NSI in Philadelphia. And what I'd like to do is welcome you here today. We're going to do something for Halloween. Woohoo! So I want to going to do a bat nail. We're going to go through extreme nail extensions using forms. And what I've done today, I've done a bit of planning for those of you that struggle with sculpting or even extreme nails. I'm going to help you learn how to plan. So rather than just go in blind, even myself who can just pick up a form and go, when you're doing extreme shapes like the bat nail, the arrow nail, the butterfly nail, the concept is starting block is exactly the same. It's just how you adapt from there. So what I'm going to do is turn the camera around. So I hope you enjoy this with me today, and I'll show you my inspiration, how I get to it, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Okay. Oh, wait, sorry. She said. Oh, I've disappeared.
No.
Can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay. I'm just going to turn my phone down the other way. Yeah. That's cool. I'm not sure which way around it would be. I think it's slightly delayed, isn't it? Okay.
Yes,
Okay. Right, so there's slight delay on it. So bear with me. And be right, yeah. Okay, so starting off then for a bat nail. First of all, is where to get inspiration from. I want you to have a look at a few things. So this is a bauble that I saw in a thing, and I was looking at the bat shape of the nails. So you can actually see where to get inspiration from. And it's also looking at the shape you've got of the wings to how to actually work that out, because we've got to portray this look onto a nail. So if you have a look at the nail that I've completed, look at the wings here going through, okay? And what I'm going to look at and what I want you to really focus on is that if you look here, it's not going below the base of my finger here. If it does, when you tap it around, you're not going to be able to work with it. So the structure here is basically essentially from a stiletto and then bringing the wings down from that. So even on the nail forms, we was actually looking at different things, and this is how I was doing it from drawing it out. So what does this drawing mean? Okay, so I want you to look at your forms. These are stiletto forms here. Now it's actually a stiletto. Now the beauty of these is we have the stiletto already pointed out from here. So if we actually have a look at our stiletto, we've been doing stilettos for years, so we should be able to do that. Now what you've got to look at is when this is folded around, how far the points go, because it's very easy to get both sides not the same. Now I've also done one where, if you're not that cool, where if you wanted to cut it out and stick it on, you can do that. But what you find is this comes away from this paper here, and it sometimes causes some problems. So, but what I have done is cut out the shape that I have. And what this does is allow me to see where the numbers are that I'm going to sculpt to. So let's look at what that means. You might look at it and go, oh, I can't really see that. But actually, let's have a look at what we've got here. So the first one is the bat wing as it comes down. So actually look, you can see how it drops through here. Now some bats have like three hoops, but I found when I did that, it was too busy. So the two wings and the 3 points, which is the tip, one wing here. So that makes a nice curvature. The other key feature is it's very rounded through here, like arches sort of cathedrals and things like that. So let's look at how far we're going to do. We're going to go to the end of the form. So we're going to go full stiletto. Okay. So the first bit's going to come down and we're going to come to here between the 2 and the 4. So it's going to come down to here. Now, if I take it all the way down to the bottom here, it's going to be too low. So I'm going to bring it certain down, but I'm going to go to the purple here. That's going to be my finished length. So you can come a little bit longer, which gives you a bit of filing freedom, but you don't want to come too low. The next section here, look at my back wing here, is this section here, and that's going to be between by number 6 here. So it can come up, so you're coming from here and come up to here. Okay, that's going to be the center. Sorry, that's going to be the center of it. So it's going to come to the outside here. So this is going to be your highest point to here. And then from here, we're going to scoop all the way up to the end. So you can actually see then your back now evolving. So that's what I'm going to work to when I sculpt on the form. Okay, and you can see then how that comes out, and it's not too big. Because the other thing we tend to do when we do extreme nails, and I see it all the time, and I've done it myself when I first started to do extreme lengths, is we use far too much product on there, and then we end up filing for absolute ever. So here I've got a nail, which has been fully prepped. Okay, just check that's in the centre for you. Fully prepped in here. So I just need to add a little bit of essential bond. I've got my nail form again, which I'm using these ones here. The first thing I'm going to do is flex it, okay? Because it's, you know, when they're on a roll, they're quite stiff. And to get the curvatures, because you need quite a deep undercurve here, you need to flex it, put a bit of movement into it. Okay, let's get a bit of movement into that. Okay, peel it off and put the centre in the back. This gives you a little bit of oomph and belly through that centre line and stops it popping out so much. Okay, the other thing I always do is now, I don't put these together, these tabs together, but I'm going to put these tabs together, make sure they're central. Make sure you pinch, because we are doing a stiletto. So this is now a closed end. So that's now closed. This centre line is very important, because when you put your nail on, this centre line has to go all the way through the top. If it's slightly off, then your nail's going to be off on a kink, and it's on the extreme, you're actually going to notice it. So I'm going to size it up. I always open these back tabs. I just find it a lot easier. Okay. Hold the end, and then let's just see how it fits. Okay, not too bad, but I'm going to have a slight gap through here. So I'm just going to pop it together and see, just very gently, and see if I get any what I call pressure points. See if it buckles here, and you see it's just buckling here. So I would do like a little snip or snip the hypernicum. Okay. So let's just take it off. And what I'm going to do, see where this bend is here, I'm just going to take off the inside corner there. Okay, so I'll put it back up again. There you go, and that fits a lot nicer. Okay. Now, the other thing when you fit a stiletto tip, when you turn it to the side, the form is going to go slightly down, but what you want to look at is that your the end of your, if you look at my nail, how can I put it here? Can you see the end of my nail here? Just move that over me. See my high point here, it's aiming down slightly, but it's parallel from this side through. My nose is parallel to my sidewall, okay? And that's when you know you've got it in the right place. So let's just add these tabs. Make sure it's like totally together. So for that. Yeah, and that's going to go through there. Okay, so I'm looking at it to make sure from through here that the side is exactly the same. Now, when I've got that, a lot of people leave it like that, and it makes this bit here quite big. And what you want is on a stiletto or any of these nails, you need this to have quite a thin drop, so this comes up higher in the centre. So what I tend to do, I turn it to the side, and I pinch it under tight here to the nail, so it really grips it to the nail. And I follow that through here. You see how that's tight there, and I do here as well. Okay, that already starts to bring it in a bit tighter. See if we can make it even tighter than that. Gently roll it in your fingers, and take time at this part, because remember,
Denise, can you move your hands just a little more in camera?
sorry darling, am I going the wrong way? It's on a bit of a delay, sorry honey.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me just move this. Is that better? Yep. Okay, so I'm just tightening this down. So I'm making sure that this gets tighter and tighter. Move them on this way to me. There you go. Ah, right, there you go. It's fine. It's because it's in reverse, isn't it? And I'm tightening this through here, making sure it's nice and tight. See on here and through here. And you can see how much slimmer this is now. Shut this on the thing. Now, the other thing you find when you're doing extreme is the form moves. Okay, so what I'm going to do is clear what I call a link bead from here to here, just a swipe through. And what that does is anchor this form to this nail. So it doesn't matter what I do, it stays nice and tight. Okay. So I'm going to be using like crystal clear, and I'm going to be using my NSI Precision Elite brush. Okay. So I'm going to be doing my link bead, not too big, and it is literally from here. It's no bulk at this stage. I'm literally going to thin it onto the nail, stroke it through. And what also it does, it stops where the nail hits the form being a dip. So if you was then doing over in a colour, so say if you wanted to build it in black acrylic, that you can, but just remember when you're doing it in coloured acrylics, then it is going to be a lot slower drying. Okay. So that's my link bead, and you can see then what will happen now. That will keep that nice and tight onto that fingernail. Now what I'm going to do with my bat nail, because I want it, as you can see, quite sparkly underneath, I'm all about structure. I love all my things encapsulated, because anything on the top I tend to pick off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the structure in a colour wash on the side in a glitter. And then we're going to paint on the top with our new paints. So those of you that have never mixed glitters before, okay, if you can just take that for me. How you mix a glitter to make it stable. If you put too much glitter into the white, then what you'll find is, into the clear rather, you'll find it'll break up. It needs enough powder to actually make a structure. Otherwise it will just disintegrate. So those of you who never mix your own glitters, it is 1 part glitter to 3 parts powder. And that will give you a good basis that it won't then mess up your ratios. It's a good ratio to start with. Obviously, some glitters with chunkier bits you might have to add or take away, but that gives you a good scenario. So I'm just going to give that a little mix. And then you just need to test it just to make sure. And you'll know if it hasn't got enough powder in it, because it will break up some. So I'm going to put it down on a bit of tissue and see how it's smooth. If I can smooth it out, which I can, then I know it's going to hold. There's enough clear in there. And see, I can move it around. There's enough clear in there to make a break up. Put on a bit of tissue just to check. That's lovely. So if you wanted it to be sort of a little bit sparse, you could add a little bit more clear into it. If you want it to be dense, then just a fraction, but just be careful on your ratios. That's going to give me my sparkly body, and it's also going to give me the sparkle underneath. So when it's flying through the sky, it's reflecting the sky from the back. So this part is dry now. Again, just check it's nice and tight. So as I'm working, it's not going to come unattached, and it makes sure that my drop either side is exactly the same. Okay, this is where it gets exciting. So basically, structured out, I'm going to do a stiletto. So I'm going to bring it out to the stiletto, and then we're going to go back to the wings on the side. I think it's important when you do long nails like this that you don't pile too much on. Remember, especially when you're layering with art, the glitter that I'm putting on is literally going to be just the colour. I will encapsulate in the clear, and the clear will then give my hard structure. So then you know it's not going to break down at all. So a nice big bead, because we've got to go a long way. So I'm placing it on the join there. I'm not worried about the cuticle at the minute, so we're just going to thin that down because I don't want a big lump, otherwise you get colour. And then this is where it almost like is a bit like a gel. So literally from the side, we're just going to take it down, stretching it through to where my stiletto ends. And when you place it, when you're doing long nails like this, it's a bit like the gel. If you notice, I almost like create like a sausage down the centre. So I'm bringing everything up. So the highest point is through here. I'm not making it wide. If you start patting out like this, you're creating quite a bit of width on there. Just put a bit in the base, in the cuticle area. So he's going to have a very sparkly belly and a little bat, which is going to be quite cute. I do like a bit of sparkle, but I do like to encapsulate it because otherwise I do fiddle with it and then it just comes away. Okay, so that's sort of the basis going through, as you can see, through my stiletto. So if I turn to the side for me, you can see it's still quite neat. Okay, don't worry about getting the high apex and everything like that. That's going to come. So now I'm going to come down to my wings. So this is where, do you remember if we get the plan? Okay, so we're going to come down. The first one is going to come down to here, to the top of the purple, between the 2 and the 4. So this number 5 here. Okay, and it's going to, so we're just going to curve it round. Okay, so let's put that one on first. Now I'm just going to blot the liquid out the back of my brush so the product is slightly drier, and that then allows me to not have to chase it around. Now think how it comes off this now here, because I don't want it to be sitting, I want it to come off nice and not be too heavy. So there's my first point. It's going to come up. There's my highest point, and it's going to come down to where between the top of the curve, which is here. So we're going to do a nice big curve here. Down to the 8. Okay. Anything you don't want, take it up high. Okay. So I'm going to come in through. So bring that curve in here, bring this down to a point on the top there. And now this lower line here, can you see how it comes on from the nail? But that's why you don't really want to go too far down from there. Now, depending on where you are, depends on how quickly this will dry. But with all these lights here, this is drying quite quickly, but I don't mind that because I quite like to work quite fast. So okay, and then from here, we're at the number 8. We're going to make another arch up to the point. So just block the back of the brush. take it there, and then we're just going to bring it up to the point. Now don't forget, we're going to be using our drill to really fine art that. So this is just really a rough point. So I'm going to look at that. I'm looking at the widths. Okay, and I'm quite happy for that. So now we need to match the other side. So the principle is the same. Coming down to here. So from the now down to the number 5. See, when you've got that structure in your head, it's much easier to think about where you're putting this product. But it makes you quicker. Otherwise, especially with like extreme ones, it can take you like forever to do these nails. Especially if you've got to do like more than one. Just bring that through there. Down to the top 8 here. And then 3. Have a look, match from both sides. Make sure they've got a high arch from here. Need a bit more on that side bit here. Coming down, make sure that point is there, just so it gives me something to work for. I can carve into here, so I'm not really that fussed on that one. Okay, now check these. You can see my tabs have come open. Okay, pinch it, and then what we'll do in a minute is we can actually then, this is here, just give this a bit of a pinch here. Just check down the barrel, just pinch that together. Because you don't want it to come around too much, because I remember when I first used to do these and butterflies, it's almost like the wings just come around like this and touch each other, and that doesn't help either. Right, so when I'm quite happy on that, just put a little bit more, so I want this to be quite dense on the belly. I'm then going to encapsulate in my clear, and that's where the magic comes in, okay? So,
Denise?
Yes, darling?
Sorry to interrupt you. We have a question.
Yeah?
Someone is saying that when they do acrylic, it gets stuck on their brush, and they'd like to know what they're doing wrong.
You're either too dry in your mixture, or you might be going back, and I'll show you in a minute what I mean. You've got to keep going back into the liquid. Is this on extremes or a normal? Is it on a normal now or just when you do extremes?
They did not specify.
Not specify. Okay. So when you go in, what a lot of people do, they go in and they do this and they pat, 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 pat. And what happens is all the liquid goes out of your brush. It's the liquid in the brush that keeps your bristles together into this sort of, see, it keeps it together and nicer. And as soon as it goes a bit dry, if I just take all the liquid out of that, I just do this, this is what happens to your brush. Can you see that sort of dryness? And then what happens is your acrylic then gets stuck in that dryness. So you need to keep your brush moist. So I'd say work with a slightly wetter bead, you're either working too dry or you're patting too much that you're losing the liquid from your brush to keep your bristles together nice and tight. So if you look again at the bristles, how it's supposed to be, if I put it under here, your brush should always have this beautiful shape here and it will work like a paddle for you all the time. Okay, so either pat your bead and then moisten your brush. Don't add too much liquid, it's just to moisten. So when you're moistening it, you'll go in and you'll just wipe one side and you'll have moisture then in the top, which will feed through to the bottom. If you do this, get a bit carried away, you'll take too much liquid out and again, your brush will dry out. So in, wipe each side and come back and you can then carry on touching your acrylic and it will just keep moving for you a bit longer. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so clear, if you watch how I do this with the bead, it's actually very much like a gel. Because with a stiletto, I need a high point through here. So I need to feed that. So I'm going to pick up a bead, place it here, and then I'm going to drizzle it like you would a gel, and then feather down the sides. So I don't get too much bulk. See how I'm stroking it? So it's almost like creating a spine. So if I turn to the side, you can see how that spine is starting to develop. So see, like here where it's sunken, by doing this, it will self-level it and not put bulk on the sides, but put it up onto the spine. So the next one, from here, I'm just going to drizzle it down that center and then feather to allow it to encapsulate that glitter. So again, if I turn it to the side, you can see that spine starting to develop. You can see then where and now I'm going to put in the back from here. So when you have a stiletto, this back third needs to be high here because you need a stress area where this joins, an apex where this joins here, and then it will tone down to the point. The reason for that is this needs to be the thickest area because it's such an extreme now. It needs to have a bit of strength on that contact area. So again, picking up that, tucking it in the base. Again, stroking the side, tucking it in, stroking the side. So any excess comes down that center. Don't know where you come from. We don't want you in there. Can you see, if you turn to the side, can you see how that is starting to develop from here, coming down, and I'm going to follow that through to the point. Just drizzle it through, stroking it, stretching it, all the way to the point. And that will make that nice and strong. Okay, so just to make sure I've got on here, I'm literally just going to small bead, swipe the wings, tidy up. Try and keep it as tidy as you can because it's all less to file at the end of the day. There's nothing worse when you do these sort of things and then you're like your wing falls off. Okay, take that off that you don't want. So I'm just tidying up under here and under here. Okay. My phone is bleeping. Can you hear me okay? You can see me, that's great. I'm just titivating that in to make sure that that is just totally where I need it to be, and then that's all I need. Okay, so from the side, I can
still hear you great.
Excellent. So from here, you can see I've got a nice structure here, a nice bone through here. I'm just going to make sure my nose, this is also where you tend to catch it, is nice and strong just on here because I can make that as thin as I like them. So as you can see, it's really then a structure of a stiletto, but just working out where you want your things, and that's down to your planning. So draw it out on your form, and then make sure that these always stay together. Make sure it's nice and tight against the finger to get the drop on the under. You need it to be nice and slender. The last thing we want is it to be sort of really quite massive. So we need to wait for that to dry. Any questions on that technique? No. I'm going to see some amazing bat stilettos then, am I? Okay, I'll just bring this forward a bit. This was me. Right. So the next thing is we're going to actually use the drill to take off any excess. We're going to be using a barrel head to start with. Okay. So when you take off an extreme form, okay, make sure you just release it off first, just very gently, to make sure it's ready to come away, so it doesn't snap off any, especially when you've got fine areas to contend with. And then just gently give it a wiggle, support that structure, and it will just come away underneath. nice and clean. Okay, so if you turn to the side, you can see that by using that, we're virtually there on each side, which is great. So it's not too messy and not too much work to do. So what I'm going to do is turn it over, because the other thing is as well is when people don't look at it from the other side, if you turn a nail upside down, and this works for any other structure, you can see where your bulk is. So this obviously is my best side, and this side is my non-best side, because I've obviously got more product there. And what I'm looking at is how thin this section is here, because when I do my filing, and this works when you do competition nails, or if you even in salon nails, if you're finding you're getting a few hips, which is here, along the side of the nail here, it makes this nice and slender. So when you turn upside down the nail, you can actually see the thinness here and how much filing you've got to do. So let's start off with just removing a bit of bulk. So turn to the side, always on this length, support the nail. So what I'm doing here is just really doing a bit of smoothing. Okay, to turn to the side. I often find, like, I don't often use a drill, but the thing is with this one, to get these back wings nice and crisp, there's no way you can make a file go in here. So you need to use the drill. So you might as well take off a bit of it. Let's turn it upside down for me. Can I just see the thing? So here, I'm looking at here, I can get some, so I can do a bit more here. And the rest I can do by file. So just really on the point, turn over for me. Thank you. I know I've got a bit of room to go nice and narrow here and nice and narrow here. Okay, now I'm going to slow the drill down a fraction, so I've got a bit more control, because what I'm going to do now is go in my arches. Okay, so turn it right side for me. This is where your artistic license comes in. So I can make these go up as high as I want. So I want them to be almost like level with here. So all I'm doing, see how much crisper that makes that. And again, go in here, keep it nice. If you notice, I'm not angling it here, I'm going in quite high. It's almost like at a 90-degree angle. Okay, and that's crispened it up, and we're going to do the same on the other side. Now, what you can do is use the underneath as a template. Okay. So look from the side, see how your template's looking. Right, so we can then come back to that. So I'm now going to do it by file. And I'm going to show the quickest way to actually file, which is just so easy, and it works for me on every single nail that I do. Okay. Take the edges off the file. Okay, so first I'm going to do is turn it upside down. I'm going to support the nail, okay, on one side. And what I'm going to do is I'm looking at the thinness here to see how much I've got to get rid of, okay. So, and I'm going to do it at an angle as in towards the center. And this side is an angle towards the center. And what this does, it gets rid of those hips. I've got more on this side. It also, because it's a file compared to the drill, what it actually does is give you a total level surface, where with the drill, people can sometimes get it where they've got dips in it, and then with the dips, you then struggle to get away with that. So you can actually see how that is starting to come in nicely. Do the other side. Okay, so when I turn it over for me, what it's getting rid of is these hips here. So now I'm going to do the cuticle area. Make that nice and tight. Angle your file in, get that in nice and tight. And if you've done good cuticle work beforehand, then it would have been nice and neat. But angle your file in almost like as a 45-degree angle. Follow the cuticle round, and then hopefully you won't cut the client. So when that's nice and tight, that's my starting block. That is now my tight structure that everything else is going to come from. So I'm now going to come in and bring this to the highest point here. So like an angle 45 degree to make sure it goes in tight and it accentuates that stiletto form. You see here, accentuates that. Now I'm going to make my spine totally straight. So just turn to the side for me, honey. Thank you. So here, so I'm now going to literally, because once I've got the height and that top structure, exactly how I want it, then from there you can bring everything from the sides up. So you can see how I'm getting a neat line here and a neat line through there. So from that I can now bring everything upwards, which then takes the bulk off here, but keeps everything in structure. So literally just the sides. And I want it literally going at an angle. So it's literally making a pyramid like this. And always use your sensors as well, okay? You can listen to the file. When the file is, the product is smooth, you get like a more of a higher pitch sound. When it's actually not smooth, the pitch of the nail is actually quite low, okay? Okay, turn it upside down. Let's just have a look. Take a bit more off here. We don't really want a chunk monkey, okay? So you can actually see how this slenderness is coming in through here. So when I run my finger up here, I can actually feel that it's actually nice and smooth. I've got a bit more bulk that I can take off there, but I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to do the other side first. So again, drop it down. Remember, this is coming from the point nice and steep. And it opens up. That's it. So from the spine and everything's coming down. Always supporting it every way you can, because the less movement on the finger, the better. I'm trying to get rid of my hips now. My hips are here. This is what I'm getting rid of now. Get rid of the hips on the other side. Turn it over for me. Let's just have another look. See, I've still got some bulk there, and that's where my hip is there. So I can still take that off. And then I'm going to go back in with a smaller part of the drill to just really shape that. Look at the thinness through here. Don't take it too thin. Turn over for me. That's better. It's feeling a lot more narrower through here, which is great. Okay, so let's change the drill head. to go for a smaller drill head, which is like a cone on here. And that's going to get right in tight where I want it to be. I have this on about an 8. Okay, turn that over for me. What do you want to see? I'm going to go in here. If you have the ones that've got the rounded nozzle, then that's great, because what that does, it doesn't like hurt or cut the skin at all. I'm going to come back with a big one for that. Okay, turn it over for me. So now I'm looking at the template from the other side. So try and get them to match. Because one thing I find I tend to play with mine quite a lot when I've got a longer one on, and that's why it's got to be nice and smooth. Okay. Right. Just need to work on that nozzle. Yeah, structure has always been my thing. I think it's always really important to concentrate on structure, because it doesn't matter what you're encapsulating, it still needs to look elegant. Sometimes the nails are just a bit sort of chunkier than what you'd like them to be, and that's what you don't want. So I'm just going to work on these now, for making sure that both sides are the same. Take a bit of that off there so that nose can come down a bit. Notice I'm almost like doing both at the same time, making sure that the edges, oops, it turns off. What about doing extremes? Extremes are always a little bit more fun. They're a little bit more creative. I know we wouldn't actually probably wear them every day, but it's always quite good. And if you're doing a photo shoot for, for your salon or something like that, then it's always quite good fun. A bit sharper edges on those. Then the next thing is obviously to check that they actually sort of match. Okay. All right, just do a bit of fine tuning, and then we're ready to decorate. So what I'm doing is just going under here to making sure my points are like matching. If we can bring them in nice and sharp. Bringing my pointy nose in. If I'm happy with that, that section there. And then I'm just going to give it a buff. We want it to be smooth for when we start painting. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to put like the essential base on, because we're going to use the new paints that we've got that's in the palette to decorate it up. Now, as you can see, because doing something like that is quite fiddly, if you could like do a smile line if you wanted, and then do it in like in the black. But remember, when you're using black, it can go quite over your natural nail colour if you were doing that. So it's easy to do it all in one and then decorate with big products afterwards by painting. down the barrel to see what I've got. Even when you do salon nails, look down the barrel of the nail. You know, when you do competitions, look down the barrel to make sure that you have, you know, that you've got it even each side and that it's where you want it to be.
Denise,
Yes, darling.
we've got two different questions here.
Yep.
Before the decoration starts, would it be possible to see a side view of the apex and structure at this point?
Absolutely. Okay.
And then in a normal setting, how long would you give yourself to do a single nail like this?
A single nail is actually quicker to do when you're doing it in a salon than when you're doing it onto camera, because I'm sort of going around sort of the camera lenses and things like that. So you do tend to get up now. Most people obviously would not have a whole set of back nails, but what they might do is have one back nail and the rest in stiletto. Now I've got a lady that comes in once a month to me. She travels quite about 2 hours to come down and have her nails done. She has extreme nails. Now, depending on what she has, depends on how much time it will take. But I book out to do a whole set of this length in sculpting stilettos with a design on. Just doing the structure is going to be 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Decorating, depending on what, I would say, down to sort of half an hour. So I'd say about 3.5 hours to do a full set of stilettos. If it was just plain stilettos, I could do that in 1.5 hours quite easily. It's when you start doing decoration and start doing extreme shapes like this, comes in, it takes a little bit more time. But to do one nail like this, so say if you had like normal set like mine, you could do these quite quickly. And then this would probably take me about 20 minutes to half an hour. But you find you can get doing it quite quickly when you get used to it. You're not doing things like this all the time. Now, when I'm at trade shows, I'll get quicker and quicker and quicker because I'm doing extreme nails all the time, and you just get your eye in. So, you know, it depends. That sounds a bit sort of messy, but I'd say it depends how often you do it. If someone came in for extreme set, we book out 2.5 hours for an extreme set. Okay, so if you turn this to the side for me. So here you have your first point, your second point, and your third point. You've got your arches, they match here and they match here. From here, you've also then got tight into the cuticle, coming up to your stress apex here, and then angling down. When you measure from your side wall, you're coming to your point. And if I go from the base, it's not going any lower than that. So the client can actually tap around with it and not be sort of sticking it up in the air. So you can actually function with it. And I sit here and I stroke mine like this all the time. So I did actually cut the point of mine off with a pair of scissors that when I was doing the cooking yesterday, but you won't go there. Okay, so make sure it's all nice and clean. So just wiping it over with either acetone or cleanse, depending on what your preference is. But I need it totally dust-free for painting. Okay. So what we're going to use for painting, the first thing we need to do is I'm going to use Essential Base Coat. The reason for that is because I want it to be nice and shiny. I need it to be nice and smooth for the painting, so the paint glides on much easier. And that's going to be cured in the dual elite lamp for 30 seconds.
And Denise, we know that there's going to be pricing differences from country to country, but roughly what would you charge for an extreme set for like a 3-hour nail service?
For a 3-hour nail service, we actually charge about 20. So our normal nail service is like £70 for a new set. For an extreme, it would be from 85 up to 120, depending on what design the client actually comes in with. And that's in pounds. You've got to work on something at least, if you work it out where you actually earn at least £40 per hour of any service that you're doing. Okay, so that goes in. So I don't know if you guys have seen these new palettes. I actually just adore them. They are so lovely to paint with. They are so good for doing ombres in, just that painting nails. Someone who doesn't like any bulk, or if they want to blend nails colours together. And the palettes they come in, this is obviously the black one, which I'm using here. When you've got the colours and the pinks and the purples, they all come together and they blend. So if you're not quite sure and you're quite new to it and you think, right, okay, I want to do an ombre, what colours should I blend together? The palette's a very good starting point for that. So you might have like a group of pinks, a group of blues. You can even, then it's quite good where it's fashionable to have one each colour, but in the same family. These are ideal for that as well. So I'm going to be using the black. On my one here, I've gone over in this one here, which has got a slight gold pattern into it, but it depends how extreme you want to do. So I'm going to paint the black on. I'm going to show you how to get a good smile line, how to map that out, because a lot of people struggle with smile lines. When you've got an extreme now, you have to take your smile line out a lot more. The reason being for it, if you have it too short here, it just makes your nail look unbalanced. The thing of extreme now is you're accentuating the length of nail, and that's when your smile lines start to get deeper and more. You can see it's not a round, it's more like a top of an almond shape, because it needs to follow through the center of the high point through to the end of the finger.
Denise?
Yes?
For the client that you do extremes on that travels to you,
yep.
Do you soak off the nails before you do them, or do you work with what she has on?
Before, believe it or not, before COVID, we used to soak them off, but she used to have her toes done while she was soaking. Now she comes with her nails off. So I would, if they wanted to spend my time soaking off, then I would charge extra for that. Where, because she comes without it, we don't charge anything then for the soak off. But it's quite nice to get another service out of her by doing her toes while she's soaking off. So that's just about planning your time and maximising earning potential you can get while she's with you. Okay. So I'm going to be using the detailer brush. Oh, I've got a bit of paint on one. Sorry about that. Okay. So when you're looking at it, what I want when I'm doing the veins on this, and I've got another little drawing here. This is my one with the veins. So this is my center line. This is my smile line here. A bat has veins that come down into the tiny little claws. So to accentuate this here, if you notice my smile line needs to come literally between this high enough here to allow this to curve down, to give the space to show what it's trying to achieve. Okay, so if we look at where the nail is, we turn it to the side, my smile line is actually going to come up to about here to allow this curve of that vein to come up to here. So if you've got, especially got a sparkle, pick a dot, which we're going to do this one here. Okay, and we're going to put a little dot just here. Okay, now look at the side of the nail. So look where it joins at the side here. So we need the smile line to come to there. Match it across. The smile line is going to come to there. Okay, so do one side at a time. Always do your favorite side first. And I would then, if you can't draw a line to there, and depending on the liner that you want to use, make sure you have it loaded enough to carry through. And then just put a dot from here and a dot from here. Let's have a look at that through there, because you can always bring it in and then you can go through the dots and that gives you a curvature that you need. Okay, so load the brush up and then just bring it down. Start your smile line. Okay, so go to the same the other side, bring it across, look at the width you want, a dot there, not dot there, so it's going to be nice and narrow. You can either come up this way or you can come across. I tend to go from the center down because it's loaded at the top and then comes down into more of a, it's a general shape on that one. So I'm going to go up the other way. There you go.
Denise, someone would like to know what glitter you've used to mix in with your acrylic.
It's one that I've actually just made. I've just got some glitters. I remember when we had it, I mixed my own glitter. So I've got 3 different sizes. I quite like having a mixture of a glitter. I don't like having just one or the other. So I tend to mix them. So I've got a small one, a medium one, and a slightly larger one. So you can see the 3 different sizes. Remember, it's 1 part glitter to 3 parts powder. Now, these palettes, they come with their own brush. And it's a lovely flat brush, which is ideal because as I've lost it, there it is. And they've got this lovely flat palette here, which makes it very nice and smooth. So I also use my palette to feel the texture of anything before I use it. So I tend to pop it on here. And you can see then how nice and smooth that goes on. And that tells me whether I need to warm it up. Because remember, in the winter time, if it's a bit colder, it's going to be less runny than it is when it's in the heat. Okay. So I'm going to go from the smile line back and just literally stroke it on. I love this stuff because it actually covers really nicely and it's almost like just like painting, and it doesn't sort of travel, it doesn't move. So just get it on the basis that you need first, and then we're going to come back to that smile line because we've got the edges where we need it to be, and then we can go back in and dye, because what you don't want at the moment is so where you've got the smile line, if you've done a line that's a bit thicker, you can then take it from that back and start to thin and blend it out. Now, if you wanted it to be all black, you can just put layers on, but you might even want to do like a thinner layer where you can actually see some of the sparkle through. That's totally your choice. And this is going to cure for 30 seconds in the dual cure lamp. So I'm quite happy with that. But what I am going to go do is go back with my detailer and sharpen up that smile line before it goes into cure. I'm going to work it out to take the excess off my brush. So creamy, this texture, it's so smooth. Lovely. Okay, put that into cure for me. So from that, we can actually then start to put the veins on. Now, because of the texture of the paint, you could do the veins by building up and really what I call loading the brush up and almost like holding it slightly above, so it actually makes almost like a long sausage in the black. You can actually use either the rubber base or the essential base, where you could actually then use that. So it's almost like a clear look through it. Because it's slightly a thicker consistency, you can actually just see how much thicker that is, and dribble the lines through that, which will make it stand more proud. So it's really a total choice of how you decorate. You could even put like a matte top coat on, so your bat wing is matte, and then put the paint in the black so it's got the shiny on the top. You could even do it, what's quite nice on this is the silver. This is a lovely silver one here. We can actually, because bats have that sort of sometimes that reflector, you can do it in the silver, which will give almost like a flat matte look as well. So the choice is yours of how you want to decorate it up. But the palette's a good way to do it, okay? So looking at this now, and you can probably see the structure a little bit better now. Can you see actually how it's moving? So what we're going to do is put some veins on. So I'm going to just do like a curvature from here, and I'm going to do it in the silver so you can actually see. One, it's using a different colour, but show you how it looks like against the black. So I think it will show a little bit more. So I'm just going to put some on my palette because where I want quite fine lines, I also want to work it through to see how it grips onto my brush. Always coat the brush so you've got some in there, and then feel how it's, so you can see how you can work the line. So if I put more pressure on, it's going to be thick, but I want quite a thin line. So I'm just going to work that through, warm it up a little bit, so I can, there you go, stretch it through a bit more. Okay. Let's go back to my pattern. Remember starting here and coming through to the point in an arch. So turn to the side for me. So let's go down the centre first. Remember, on these sort of things, it's only as a slight reflector, so less is sometimes more. Don't try and do everything really chunky. Okay, you see how it just reflects on there. So this is my point here. I'm going to come from here up to the centre, and then from the centre to here. And then see how you get the arch, and it puts a little bit more of a bat wing on there. So again, from the centre, from here down, and from here so then I've got my things from there. Okay, so we're going to clear that for me. Now the beauty of doing it in clear, and I use clear as my base structure quite a lot because I actually quite like to see the colours underneath of what I'm doing. You can then layer it up and have like a two-dimensional nail from underneath to on top, or if you like it, you can have literally just a plain colour reflecting underneath. So I actually quite like that. Now I'm going to leave it quite sort of neutral and plain because sometimes we've got so much sparkle going on in the belly of the nail that we want to not detract from the veins and the back nail itself, but we do like a bit of bling. Now you can go back and tidy down through here, which I'll have a look at in a minute, and then I'm just going to put a diamante on the top. So those of you who like a bit of bling, you can decorate how you can go all the way around in diamantes. You could even fill the body with diamantes if you wanted to. You could even put diamantes on the very tips of the wings. But remember is if someone's coming into you, they've got to be able to wear it. But there's nothing worse that when you've done lots of diamantes and things like that, and they're coming in and going, oh, I've lost one, or I've lost two. You know, it's just a bit of a pain. Okay, so what we're going to do is seal that now. Okay, so we're going to put a top coat on it with the essential seal. Okay. This also enhances the black. There's a little bit of twinkle coming through, which is nice. Going into a more blacker end. Make sure you get now down on the tips. What I also do on extreme, just make sure that you've got under here so it doesn't bleed underneath. Okay, and then in you go. So the diamonds I've chosen, here, is to go with a reflective one now. Alifair's nails are quite small, so we don't want to go too big, otherwise it's actually going to differ. So I've got two sizes here, so we're just going to marry them up and see which one's going to be the best, because what you don't want to do is put it in here and then it sort of differs for it. Sometimes it's nicer for it to just actually sit in. So you just love chasing these things around. Beautiful little things, come on. Yeah, so sometimes it just sits in there better. So we'll have a look, because she's got smaller nails than me, and actually see. Now, when the seal comes out, remember it needs to be wiped from the tap free. So we're just going to get some cleanse so we can wipe it off. Okay, don't panic if a little bit of black comes, because it might be from underneath. Doesn't mean it's not cured or anything. Okay, out you come. I'm just going to make sure everything comes out first. If you turn it over for me, you can actually see then we've got a beautiful twinkle underneath there. And that's what I like about that, what I was saying about the different dimension. It's following through from the top. We've got a little bit of detail. The darkness shows the structure, but we've got a nice bit of bling underneath. So I'm going to put a diamond on here now. I'm actually going to use our Elite gel for that. Okay. You can put it on with acrylic. There's nothing wrong with that. But remember, when acrylic dries, it's matte. So sometimes when you push your diamante in, it pushes a bit of the acrylic out and you get this matte seal around it. And then you have to then start putting gels on the top from that. Sometimes I do seal in, depending on the pattern and what diamantes that I'm using. I do go over the diamantes, but diamantes like to sparkle by themselves. But, you know, feel free to do each way you want. But I'm going to put a little bit of the balance gel on, and we're going to put a diamante in there. I'm going to use my gel tool for that. Let's first have a go, see what size up. This always makes me laugh because they always go like all over the place. Right, so this is a larger one. Let's see what that one looks like when it go on, which I think actually is probably going to look nicer. And then this is the tinier one. I think you'd prefer the bigger one.
Yeah, big one.
Clients do love a big
Go big or go home.
Okay. So I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of gel just here. With the bigger ones, you can pick them up with tweezers, which is quite handy. Put it on and then just literally turn it over and push it down. Because then if anything does come out, the beauty of it, you can move it out of the sides. It doesn't matter so much because that's going to go nice and shiny. Okay. I'm going to stick a bit more into the black. I think that's a better option just there. Yeah, right, in you go. And then cure that. So hopefully that has helped you with the structure. So literally plan it out before you start. Remember learn about your forms. Remember on the forms from here, looking at the way all of these goes on, these purple bits, you don't want to go really much lower than that. Otherwise it's dropping down too low on the finger. If you're doing lots of different designs, the structure is still the same. Get your stiletto in first, then drop your design in. Remember your form, make it nice and tight, pin it down the sides so it wraps around here, make sure it's nice and tight through here. And as you're working, just keep an eye that it doesn't ping past. And hopefully, I don't actually pinch that much now because I can get my form on so tight. I just literally sort of roll it in my fingers just to bring it round a fraction. Remember filing, turn it upside down, because in any stiletto, angle it in to the center. You always want a high spine. So when you file, it's almost like into a wigwam like this. So it's always up to the center. Okay, and if it's upside down, you can see how thick or how thin you're making it here, and it gets rid of your hips. Okay, and that will work on any nail, even if it's a normal nail. Okay, out you go. So I'm just going to put a little drop of oil on there, just around the cuticle area. Any more questions on the nail and the structure, application wise?
I know you're just finishing her up, and I don't know if it's possible to get a clear shot of it close up.
Yep. So I was trying to work out. So on the phone, it's quite funny actually. So when we had it set up, it was so close, but when it goes on the live stream, it's back to front. So I'm going to try and zoom it from underneath. And did you want a white background on it so you can see it better?
Maybe.
Okay, let me grab a bit of tissue, and then we can zoom in. Okay, so can you see to the side? Let me just get that little bit off first. A little bit of that. There you go. So there's your side view. Shall I zoom in? Have a look.
Going closer.
Is that going closer? I don't think I can zoom in on my end on that. Let me go. Can you come up higher? Let's wait for it to catch up with us. So I'm just trying to get it in the right camera for you.
Yeah, just move it a little closer to you.
Yeah, just bring it to me a little bit. It will just catch up in just one moment. There we go. There we go. Can you see that? And the structure through here. Go this way. There you go. Is that better?
Yep.
Right, so you've got the curvature here. They match the points either side here. You've got the curves through here. And then if you turn it, then you've got nice and tight through the side, coming up to your apex, down to the point. Okay. Turn it round, and then you've got the other sides, points matching, nice high side, and from there. Not too swollen through here. The sides, if you look from here, from the belly of the nail here, it's not too wider here, and it's tapering at the front. Just turn it around for me, just like this slowly. Put your sign underneath. Should put some oil under there, shall we? Make that sparkle. There you go.
Oh, wow.
Pretty, pretty, pretty.
Pretty.
And then you've got your sparkling under there. And over for me. Just gently.
I had a question come in, Denise, if you would do this on just the ring fingers of the client when doing a full set.
I would tend to do it on the ring finger because it tends to be out the way when someone's working, where your index finger tends to be a bit more workability and sort of writing on side like that. But with the ring finger, it can get out of the way. I've been wearing this all weekend and I can sort of like, you know, still work with these fingers. So it can like wiggle around by itself and keep out of the way.
And then might you do the rest of the fingers in the standard stiletto?
In a standard stiletto, yeah. You could do that in the standard stiletto, you could do it in the glitter, you could do it in the black to make it stand out and pop by itself. You could even, if you wanted to, play around where you could do the belly in like a dark red. Imagine like a dark red of mine, so it's like a blood body, which would be quite nice against the black. So you can make it into like a dark, and then the rest of the nails could be a red. So you can play around about, but put them down on a tip first, play around with some colours and find what works for you, because what you want it to pop at the end of the day. Sometimes if the red is too dark, then it will just blend in and you won't see the difference from the black.
Any other questions? Everyone's just saying thank you very much. They learned a lot and it's beautiful.
Thank you. I'm just trying to work out as they say goodbye to you. Can you see me? There you go. So, hey, thanks ever so much. Thanks all for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope some of you have learned some structure from that. Oh, that's Alifair, our model, bless her. This likes to do lots of different things, this camera. She's been very patient all day. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope lots of you learned lots of tips. I hope you've learned how to structure and hopefully do some fantastic back nails and salon nails from there. Thanks a lot.